The air is thick with silence, broken only by the faint hum of ancient wind whispering through time-worn stone. A single beam of moonlight penetrates the darkness, illuminating a cracked, dusty tablet buried in the earth. Its enigmatic symbols shimmering like a message from another era. What secrets does this artifact guard? What hidden knowledge was buried, perhaps deliberately, by those who came before us? Tonight, we embark on a journey through the shadows of history, across deserts, deep into forgotten tombs, and beneath layers of rock and soil, where science still trembles to explain the unexplainable. This is not a conventional tale of discovery. These are the bizarre, ancient mysteries that defy reason and logic. As your eyelids grow heavy, allow yourself to drift into a world where whispers of the past beckon, and every revelation reveals more questions than answers. The summer of 1,518 inches, Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, was unusually warm. The air hung heavy with the scent of ripening wheat fields and the distant toll of church bells. The town, nestled along the banks of the Rhine, seemed at first like any other medieval settlement. Narrow cobblestone streets, timber-framed houses leaning slightly with age, and the steady hum of daily life moving at its slow, inevitable rhythm. But then, it began. It started with one woman. On a bright July morning, Frau Trophäa stepped into the bustling square of Strasbourg, her eyes glassy, unfocused. Without warning, she began to dance. At first, passers-by regarded her with a mixture of pity and amusement. A harmless, eccentric, perhaps possessed by divine inspiration or madness. But as hours passed, her movements became increasingly frenetic, uncontrolled, desperate. Then, another joined her, and another. By the end of the first week, dozens of people, men, women, and even children, were caught in the same inexplicable trance. They danced, relentlessly, unyieldingly. The phenomenon quickly spiraled out of control. Historical records describe up to 400 individuals afflicted over the course of several weeks. Some danced for days on end. Eyewitnesses reported the sick writhed, collapsed, and yet somehow returned to their unholy rhythm, as if compelled by an unseen force. Medical practitioners and local officials were baffled. Attempts to intervene, ranging from music to exorcisms, proved futile. In the oppressive, stifling heat of that summer, dozens reportedly succumbed to exhaustion, heart attacks, or sheer physical collapse. What was happening? Centuries later, medical science continues to wrestle with theories. One widely accepted explanation points to mass psychogenic illness, a form of collective hysteria triggered by extreme stress, fear, or religious fervor. The residents of Strasbourg, burdened by famine, disease, and superstition, may have unconsciously succumbed to a shared delusion, a physical manifestation of psychological torment. Another theory suggests ergot poisoning. Ergot, a fungus that grows on damp rye, contains powerful hallucinogens chemically related to LSD. Consuming contaminated bread could cause convulsions, hallucinations, and muscle spasms, potentially explaining the involuntary dance. Yet neither theory fully explains the phenomenon. How could such a large group remain afflicted for so long without clear signs of poisoning or an obvious psychological trigger? It wasn't until the early 21st century that a new and unsettling possibility emerged from the shadows of archival research. A team of independent historians, combing through forgotten municipal records and personal letters from the era, stumbled upon a curious set of correspondences between local officials and high-ranking church authorities. The tone of the letters was guarded, almost conspiratorial. One phrase stood out in particular: to purge the city of its hidden sins. Could the plague have been orchestrated? New research suggests that political and religious manipulation may have played a role. Some scholars argue that the dancing plague served as a form of social control, a grotesque public demonstration of divine wrath and obedience, designed to distract and subjugate the populace during times of unrest. A prominent local cleric, deeply invested in suppressing heresy, reportedly called for the afflicted to dance in public as a form of penance and spectacle. Rather than seeing this as a mere medical or psychological event, they framed it as a ritual of atonement. But the most chilling aspect of this theory lies not in the why, but in the eerie precision of the event's timing. The outbreak began shortly after a particularly severe bout of drought and famine, a period where public disillusionment with the Church was at an all-time high. Was the plague a spontaneous outbreak of madness, or a deliberate spectacle of control? The tension between these two poles, accidental or intentional, lends a haunting ambiguity to the event. In modern times, the story is recounted with fascination, horror, and a subtle sense of disbelief. The town square in Strasbourg remains today, cobblestones weathered, silent. No plaque marks the tragedy, no official memorial stands. Only the faintest echoes of music long silenced seem to linger in the air, as if the earth itself remembers the steps of the damned. We are left to wonder, how thin is the line between collective ecstasy and mass tragedy, between divine punishment and human manipulation, between hysteria and carefully crafted cruelty? And as the wind carries away what remains of that strange summer, the question still lingers in the shadows. Was it madness or something far? The cave was cloaked in shadows, deep within the desolate mountains of Bayan-Ha in China's remote Qinghai province. A faint chill hung in the air, seeping into the very bones of those who dared to explore it. Moonlight struggled to penetrate the dense foliage, casting long, wavering silhouettes across the uneven ground. Somewhere, the distant cry of an owl echoed, fragile and haunting, as if mourning a forgotten secret. In 1938, a Chinese archaeological expedition, led by Chi Pu-te, descended into these ancient caverns, seeking remnants of the region's earliest inhabitants. What they discovered would challenge everything we think we know about human history. Carved into the walls and scattered across the dusty floor were over 700 circular stone discs, each roughly 30 centimeters in diameter and uniformly shaped. These discs bore spiraling grooves etched with tiny hieroglyph-like characters, symbols no linguist had ever seen. Their surface shimmered subtly in the dim light, as though preserving an untold story buried for millennia. The initial reports painted the find as baffling, almost otherworldly. The Dropa stones, as they would later be called, seemed to defy the known archaeological timeline. Experts debated furiously. Mainstream archaeologists dismissed the discs as natural erosions, mere chance patterns sculpted by time's relentless hand. Others claimed they were elaborate hoaxes, designed to draw attention, perhaps to conceal something far more sinister. Yet, a lingering sense of mystery refused to fade. Decades later, the most curious piece of the puzzle emerged not from the stones themselves, but from the obscure notebooks of an overlooked researcher, Dr. Tsum Nui. In those yellowed pages, amidst meticulous sketches and handwritten observations, he recorded something extraordinary, a strange phenomenon. He had, during his work in the cave, detected faint electromagnetic pulses, radio signals with peculiar rhythmic patterns. Tsum Nui believed these pulses matched the strange symbols etched onto the discs. His notes spoke of a theory so radical that it was dismissed by the academic establishment at the time. These stone discs were not merely relics of a forgotten civilization, but records of contact from the stars. He meticulously transcribed the patterns, noting how the signals seemed to align with the hieroglyphs. The frequency of the pulses was too regular, too structured, to be random geological noise. His hypothesis was clear. These discs were messages-encoded transmissions from a non-terrestrial source. Despite his efforts, the theory was buried alongside the stones, dismissed as fantasy, or worse, sensationalist fiction. But what if Dr. Tsum Nui was right? What if these ancient discs were not carved by primitive hands, but by visitors from the cosmos? And what if the hieroglyphs were a language designed not for human comprehension, but to survive the passage of time, awaiting a moment when we could understand? For centuries, humanity has believed itself to be the pinnacle of earthly evolution, the sole sentient life to ever walk the planet. The accepted narrative of our origins tells of humble beginnings tribes forming tools, agriculture sprouting in fertile valleys, civilizations rising in brilliant succession. Yet here, in the depths of Bayan-Har, thousands of stone discs suggest something far older, far stranger. Perhaps the most haunting implication lies not in what these stones show us, but what they do not. No clear depiction of humanoid figures, no map of Earth, no self-identification, only enigmatic symbols spiraling eternally, as if urging us to decipher them. Whispers from the past, tantalizingly close, and yet frustratingly distant. The mountains remain still, impervious to time's passage. The cave holds its breath, untouched by modernity. Somewhere deep in the earth, the dropper stones linger, their grooves etched not merely in stone, but in mystery. And as we stare into their silent, circular faces, a subtle question surfaces. Are we truly alone, or are we already being watched? Far beneath the rolling waves of the Indian Ocean, where light dwindles into complete darkness, lies a realm of silence and shadows. The pressure is immense. Time feels irrelevant. For centuries, deep-sea explorers, geologists, and dreamers alike have searched the abyss for traces of something lost, something immense, something impossible. Whispers of a sunken continent bridge the worlds of myth and science, a landmass known as Lemuria. First introduced in the 19th century, the concept of Lemuria emerged as scientists wrestled to explain a curious anomaly. Zoologists had observed puzzling similarities between animal species in India and Madagascar, despite being separated by thousands of miles of ocean. Before the theory of plate tectonics gained acceptance, one prominent idea suggested that a now submerged landmass once connected these disparate regions, allowing life to migrate freely. But the story of Lemuria soon became more than just scientific conjecture. It drifted into the realm of the mystical, the occult, and the conspiratorial. Cults whispered of an ancient civilization, older than Atlantis, thriving in harmony with nature, possessing knowledge and technology far beyond modern comprehension. They spoke of advanced architecture, deep spiritual wisdom, and cataclysmic punishment that drowned their civilization beneath the waves. Mainstream science dismissed these claims as fantasy. Geological studies, oceanographic surveys, and satellite mapping failed to reveal any such continent. The theory of plate tectonics, now widely accepted, explained the separation of landmasses without requiring a vanished supercontinent. Yet the tale refused to die. In recent decades, scattered discoveries emerged from the ocean floor, massive megalithic structures submerged in near-perfect condition. Gigantic stone foundations, arranged in geometric precision, enormous monolithic blocks showing signs of deliberate carving, far too advanced to be mere natural formations. One such site lies near the island of Madagascar. Discovered by deep-sea archaeologists using sonar mapping, vast terraces and pyramidal structures sit silent beneath 2,000 meters of seawater. Some of these megaliths show intricate carvings, symbols remarkably similar to ancient scripts found in Egypt and South America, thousands of miles apart. How could these structures exist? Could they represent the remnants of Lemuria itself? Skeptics argue the blocks are simply volcanic formations, misinterpreted by enthusiasts, driven by wishful thinking. But independent researchers insist otherwise. Radiocarbon dating on nearby organic remains reveals ages upwards of 10,000 years, placing these structures far earlier than any known advanced civilization. More perplexing still, the alignment of the structures correlates eerily with celestial patterns, mirroring star constellations that would have been visible over 12,000 years ago. These megaliths do not seem random. They suggest purpose, precision, design. Even more mysterious is the absence of any written record. No ancient text references Lemuria. No epic poem, no temple inscription, no oral tradition. Just stone, submerged and silent, as if deliberately erased. Could it be that Lemuria was not a myth, but a carefully hidden truth? A secret too dangerous, too advanced for later civilizations to understand, or perhaps a memory too painful to bear. In some esoteric circles, Lemuria is not merely a place, but a symbol, a warning. A lost cradle of human origin, where technology and consciousness once intertwined seamlessly, until hubris and folly drowned it all. Skeptics remain unconvinced, dismissing the evidence as coincidences or hoaxes. But the sea holds its silence. The stones do not answer questions, they only deepen them. Somewhere beneath the waves, the echoes of Lemuria murmur in the dark. A continent swallowed by the earth's thirst for secrecy. An enigma as vast as the ocean itself. And as we stare into the abyss, the lingering question remains: was Lemuria a myth or a truth too profound for history to... On the outskirts of Miami, Florida, amid swaying palm trees and the soft hum of ocean breeze, stands a monument of mystery, a place known as the Coral Castle. To the casual observer, it looks like a whimsical garden of massive stones, carefully arranged into walls, furniture, gates, and towers. But to those who delve deeper, Coral Castle is something far more extraordinary. It is a testament to impossible craftsmanship. The story begins with one man, Edward Leedskalnin, a small-framed Latvian immigrant with a quiet demeanour and a gaze that seemed to pierce through the fabric of ordinary life. He arrived in America in the early 20th century, unknown, unnoticed. Alone, driven by a singular obsession, Leedskalnin spent nearly 3 decades constructing the Coral Castle by hand. By most accounts, Edward Leedskalnin weighed barely over 100 pounds and stood less than 5 feet tall. Yet the structure he built comprises enormous megalithic blocks of oolitic limestone, each weighing several tons, some as large as 30 tons. What's more, he reportedly accomplished this feat entirely by himself, without the assistance of machinery, cranes, or modern technology. Leedskalnin remained cryptic about his methods. He never revealed how he managed to cut, move, and position each stone with such precision. Visitors to Coral Castle in the 1,930 seconds and 40 seconds described witnessing him working alone, using simple tools night after night in a process shrouded in mystery. He never allowed observers to see his techniques up close, and no written records of his methods exist, aside from a few vague pamphlets hinting at magnetic principles and natural forces. Locals began to whisper. Some speculated that Leedskalnin possessed knowledge lost to time, perhaps something as ancient as the pyramids of Egypt, passed down through secret orders. Others claimed he had uncovered forbidden secrets of anti-gravity, a technology so advanced it bordered on the supernatural. Scientific scrutiny of Coral Castle reveals perplexing anomalies. The stones fit together with remarkable precision, with joints so tight that even a thin sheet of paper cannot be inserted between them. The largest stone gate, for instance, is balanced so perfectly that a child can push it open with a single finger, despite its immense weight. Mechanical engineers and geologists alike have repeatedly failed to replicate such work using known techniques of the time. Yet the question remains, how? Some theorists suggest that Leedskalnin tapped into the natural magnetic properties of the Earth, subtly shifting the stones by carefully manipulating magnetic fields, in a process akin to levitation. He spoke often of magnetic currents in interviews, cryptically referring to them as the forces that move the universe. "Magnetism," he once said, "is the force that holds the universe together." But was he speaking literally or metaphorically? Others argue that Leedskalnin possessed an uncanny intuition about mechanical advantage and leverage, combining simple machines in ways that modern engineers overlooked. His methods, they claim, were ingenious applications of pulley systems, fulcrums, and counterweights, designed with meticulous precision over decades of trial and error. Despite these theories, none offer a complete explanation. No working diagrams, no written calculations, only the structure remains, silent and enigmatic. Beyond the technical marvel, Coral Castle is imbued with a deep emotional resonance. Edward Leedskalnin built it for one purpose alone, a monument of love. He claimed it was dedicated to his Sweet 16, a young woman from Latvia who rejected his marriage proposal before he left for America. Every carved heart, every carefully placed stone, stood as a tribute to an unfulfilled love, a heartbreak that would shape his solitary existence. Visitors today often describe the atmosphere as both melancholic and otherworldly. The air seems heavier around the gates, as though the weight of untold secrets presses against the walls. The granite beds, the stone chairs, the towering coral pillars all remain unmoved, untouched by time or erosion, as though deliberately preserved by unseen forces. Scientists who have examined the site with modern equipment detect no unusual magnetic anomalies. No trace of advanced technology or energy manipulation is evident. The limestone is ordinary, the tools simple. And yet, the precision defies logic. The geometry aligns with uncanny exactness. The stones appear placed with the deliberate care of a master architect, or someone who knew how to defy the very laws of physics. The most unsettling theory posits that Leedskalnin somehow unlocked knowledge we have since forgotten, a hidden science of nature's invisible forces. Perhaps, some suggest, he was a modern-day alchemist, manipulating principles of magnetism and gravity in ways not yet understood by contemporary physics. As the sun sets over Coral Castle, casting long shadows across the intricate stonework, a sense of quiet tension fills the air. The ground seems to pulse faintly, as though resonating with the secrets of a bygone era. Edward Leedskalnin passed away in 1951, leaving the Coral Castle intact, his methods never revealed, his genius never explained. He built it in solitude, stone by stone, as if each block were a word in a silent language, a message written in coral and limestone for those who dare to read between the lines. What if our understanding of physics is incomplete? What if the universe contains forces we have yet to grasp, carefully hidden in plain sight? The Coral Castle stands still, unmoving, its builder's secret as heavy as the stones themselves. And somewhere, in the depths of the human mind, a subtle question lingers. Did Edward Leedskalnin unlock a forgotten science? Or was it simply the magic of unwavering determination? Far out, in the vast expanse of the Pacific Ocean, lies one of humanity's most isolated and mysterious landscapes, Rapa Nui, more commonly known as Easter Island. Its jagged coastline crashes against restless waves, and the salty breeze carries the heavy scent of seaweed and ancient stone. The sun rises slowly over an empty horizon, casting long shadows across the island's barren plains, where silence reigns supreme. But scattered across this lonely land are over 900 colossal statues, moai gigantic monolithic heads carved from volcanic tuff. These stone giants stand motionless, their stony gazes forever locked in quiet vigilance, overlooking an island that seems abandoned of meaning. Their eyes are hollow, their expressions inscrutable. Some reach over 10 meters in height, and each weighs between 10 and 82 tons. Their heads alone are disproportionately large, sometimes as much as 3 times the size of a human body. Why were they built? What drove the ancient Rapa Nui people to labor for centuries, erecting these immense figures? For decades, mainstream archaeological consensus argued the moai were erected as part of a complex religious practice, a way to honor ancestors and channel spiritual energy. According to the most accepted theory, the moai were symbols of authority and power, embodying the mana, or spiritual force, of departed chiefs. They were believed to watch over the island's inhabitants, protecting them from unseen threats and granting prosperity to the land. Yet as the years passed, a different narrative began to take shape, a far stranger, darker possibility. Some fringe theories suggested the moai were not carved by primitive islanders as ancestral worship, but by an advanced, lost civilization or even alien visitors who gifted or imposed them as monuments. Proponents point to the precision of the stonework, the size of the statues, and the seemingly impossible logistics involved in their transportation across the island's rugged terrain. How, they ask, did an isolated people with only stone tools carve and move such titanic structures, some from quarries miles away? Then, in the early 2000s, new evidence began to emerge: mysterious underground chambers, recently uncovered by advanced ground-penetrating radar surveys. Beneath several moai platforms, archaeologists discovered vast subterranean spaces, tunnels, and caverns whose purpose remains unexplained. These chambers are not natural caves, but clearly shaped and structured spaces showing signs of human modification. Artifacts recovered from within remain as enigmatic as the statues themselves. Strange pottery fragments adorned with undecipherable symbols, ancient tools unlike any found elsewhere on the island, and a series of small statues crafted in odd proportions. Most puzzling of all are wall markings that bear striking resemblance to ancient Sumerian pictographs found thousands of miles away in Mesopotamia. Could there be a connection? Some researchers now propose that the moai were far more than simple ancestral idols. Perhaps they were sentinels, guardians, placed strategically across the island as part of a larger network of power or surveillance. The unexplored chambers suggest storage, ritual, or communication spaces hidden from sight, but essential to their function. One particularly intriguing discovery came from beneath the massive Ahu Tongariki, the largest ceremonial platform on the island. Beneath the towering row of moai stood a sealed chamber, containing an array of unusual stone discs, etched with intricate symbols arranged in complex radial patterns. The discs' purpose remains unknown, though some theorists suggest they may have functioned as ancient astronomical tools, or even primitive computing devices far ahead of their time. As the investigation deepened, evidence of subtle alignments emerged. The moai are not randomly scattered across the island, but seem to follow precise astronomical orientations. Several align with the rising sun during solstices, while others point towards significant star constellations. These patterns hint at a broader cosmic significance, one that transcends the simple worship of ancestors. Local legends, passed down through generations, whisper of a time when the island was ruled not by mortal chiefs, but by powerful entities descended from the stars. These beings, described only as the Long Ears, were said to have imparted knowledge too profound to share, secrets of the heavens and the earth, before vanishing into obscurity. The moai, some suggest, were built to honor them, or perhaps to hold their memory in stony vigil. Modern scientists remain cautious. Most of the newly uncovered chambers are still inaccessible, sealed by time and earth, leaving only speculation. Yet, the moai's sheer presence refuses to be ignored. Their heads face inward toward the island, watching, as if expecting something to return. The island of Rapa Nui itself seems caught in time's web, forgotten by the world, but never quite abandoned by history. As the wind shifts, brushing the stone faces with a soft, spectral caress, one cannot help but feel the weight of ancient eyes upon them. The moai are not merely idols of a bygone era. They are sentinels of mystery, guardians of secrets too profound to be forgotten. And as the sun dips below the endless horizon, their silent faces ask us once more, what purpose lies hidden beneath the surface of belief? What ancient power still watches from the shadows? The answer remains elusive. In the hushed stillness of the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist, nestled in the northern Italian city of Turin, rests a linen cloth whose history is woven in mystery, devotion, and controversy. The Shroud of Turin, an ancient piece of linen, yellowed by time, bearing the faint but unmistakable image of a man's face and body, has captivated believers, scientists, skeptics, and mystics for centuries. The story begins in silence. No one knows exactly when the shroud first appeared in history, though records suggest it surfaced in the 14th century in France, amid whispers of wonder and scandal. The image on the fabric depicts a man who appears to have suffered brutal wounds, puncture marks consistent with crucifixion, lacerations across the back, and discolorations hinting at a crown of thorns. For devout Christians, it is the most sacred relic of all, a tangible remnant of Jesus of Nazareth, a silent testament to his suffering and resurrection. But for skeptics, it is a cunning forgery, an elaborate medieval creation designed to attract pilgrims and enrich the church coffers. The first modern scientific tests of the shroud, conducted in 1988, seemed conclusive. Radiocarbon dating placed the fabric's creation between 1,260 and 1,390 amperes d, well after the time of Christ. The verdict was delivered with chilling certainty. The shroud was a medieval artifact, or so the world believed. Yet the debate did not end. In the decades that followed, a growing number of scientists, independent researchers, and even devout scholars began to challenge the findings. They argued that contamination of the sample caused by centuries of handling, fire damage, and environmental exposure could have skewed the carbon dating results. Further scrutiny revealed something even more perplexing. High-resolution photography of the shroud in the late 1970 seconds uncovered details invisible to the naked eye, three-dimensional information encoded in the image, subtle depth cues that no known medieval artist could replicate. The image itself appeared not painted nor sketched, but imprinted in a way that suggested contact with a living form or something far stranger. More recently, particle analysis of the shroud's fibers revealed minute traces of substances that do not correspond to known pigments or inks. Tiny amounts of rare minerals, pollen from plants endemic to the Jerusalem area, and microscopic bloodstains matching human type AB were found interwoven in the cloth's fabric. Some physicists even suggest that the image was created by an unknown form of energy, a burst of light or radiation, far beyond the technological capability of the Middle Ages. One particularly haunting experiment measured the way the image reflected ultraviolet and infrared light. The results indicated no brushstrokes, no pigment layering, just a uniform discoloration embedded in the fabric itself, as if the image was produced by a form of energy that altered the chemical structure of the linen at a molecular level. In parallel, historians scoured ancient texts and chronicles for references to a similar cloth. Some medieval manuscripts mention a relic known as the Mandilion, a cloth said to bear the face of Christ, miraculously imprinted, kept in Constantinople before disappearing from history. Could the Mandilion and the Shroud of Turin be one and the same? Theories abound, each more tantalizing than the last. But perhaps the most disturbing discovery lies in the absence of explanation itself. Throughout centuries of scientific study, no definitive mechanism has been proven for how the image was formed. No chemical process, no artistic method, no known physical phenomenon provides a satisfactory answer. The image simply exists, etched in linen, as if suspended between time and eternity. Religious devotees argue that the Shroud of Turin is a miraculous relic, a bridge between the mortal and the divine, a sacred reminder of sacrifice and transcendence. Skeptics insist it is an elaborate medieval trick, a masterstroke of deception designed to awe and control. Yet a growing number of independent researchers suspect something else entirely. What if the image was created by an event outside human comprehension? A burst of energy that coincided with the crucifixion itself, a phenomenon so powerful that it left an indelible mark upon reality. As twilight falls over Turin, the cathedral's ancient walls seem to absorb the weight of the mystery. The shroud lies in a climate-controlled glass case, its surface unmoving, its secrets held in a web of shadows. Visitors stand before it in reverent silence, some with eyes wide in wonder, others with furrowed brows of skepticism. The air is thick with the gravity of unanswered questions. Is it a relic of divine significance, or the most sophisticated forgery ever created? The linen does not speak. It offers no explanation. It does not sway opinion or confirm belief. It only exists. A silent testament to suffering, wonder, and the inexplicable. And as we stare into the faint, ghostly image of the man whose face neither smiles nor frowns, one last thought lingers in the still air. Could there be truth so profound that science itself is unprepared to unveil them? Or are some mysteries destined to remain shrouded in the dense, humid jungles of southern Mexico, where ancient rivers snake through the undergrowth and the air is thick with the scent of earth and decay, stand silent sentinels of a forgotten past. Massive stone faces, each carved from colossal basalt boulders, loom over the landscape. These are the Olmec colossal heads, enigmatic relics whose size and precision continue to baffle archaeologists and historians alike. Some weigh as much as 40 tons, standing over 3 meters tall. Their features are striking. Broad, flat noses, thick lips, pronounced cheekbones, and deep-set eyes that seem to peer into the distance, unyielding and impassive. Each head is unique, carefully crafted, yet somehow harmonized into an overarching aesthetic that defines the mysterious Olmec culture. The Olmecs are often regarded as the mother culture of Mesoamerica, a civilization that thrived between 1500 BCE and 400 BCE, long before the rise of the Maya or the Aztecs. They built monumental pyramids, developed one of the earliest writing systems of the Americas, and produced intricately carved jade artifacts. But despite their evident sophistication, the Olmecs left no written record explaining the purpose of the colossal heads. This absence of explanation has fueled endless debate. Some scholars argue the heads represent deified ancestors, powerful rulers immortalized in stone, designed to assert authority and maintain lineage over time. According to this interpretation, each face is a tribute to a different ruler, carved to preserve their visage for eternity, watching over their domain long after death. Yet, the mystery deepens when we examine the material itself. Isotope analysis of the basalt used in these sculptures reveals a startling fact. The massive stones were quarried not locally, but from the Tuxtla Mountains, located roughly 80 kilometers away from the main Olmec centers, such as San Lorenzo and La Venta. Transporting multi-ton boulders over such distance, through dense jungle and uneven terrain, would have been an immense undertaking, requiring advanced engineering knowledge and an extraordinary communal effort. How and why the Olmecs moved these stones remains a question that eludes definitive answer. Experimental archaeology has attempted to replicate the feat, using wooden rollers, ropes, and manpower. While some progress has been demonstrated, the sheer scale of the operation and the precision of the carvings suggest something more sophisticated. Even more puzzling is the distinctiveness of the facial features themselves. The faces portrayed do not conform to the typical appearance of the indigenous peoples of the region. Instead, they have broad noses, full lips, and angular eyes that seem different. Anthropologists have long debated whether these features represent actual individuals from the Olmec elite or reflect a symbolic artistic tradition. An alternative, and far more controversial theory, suggests that these heads represent foreign rulers or even ancient explorers who arrived from distant lands. Could they depict visitors from another continent whose arrival was so significant that the Olmecs immortalized their likeness in basalt? Some fringe theorists take it even further, proposing that the Olmec colossal heads represent lost voyagers, perhaps seafarers from Africa or distant Asia, who ventured across the oceans long before accepted history accounts for such journeys. This hypothesis is supported by the unusual physiognomy of the heads, which bear a vague resemblance to African facial features. Archaeologist Matthew Stirling, one of the first to excavate the Olmec sites in the mid-20th century, was captivated by the head's silent power. He wrote in his journals of standing before the largest Olmec head, a towering monolith whose expression seemed neither angry nor serene, but utterly detached, as though gazing beyond the veil of time itself. Yet, despite decades of study, no definitive connection has ever been proven. No shipwrecks, no conclusive genetic evidence, no documented contact. Only the stoic, unblinking faces carved in stone, watching over the jungle as they have for 2,000 years. The heads seem less like portraits and more like guardians of a truth too dangerous to reveal, of a history too unsettling to recount. Each stone face bears the weight of unspoken stories, etched by hands that no longer walk the earth. Local legend tells of the Olmec giants, ancient beings with great power who shaped the land, brought knowledge from beyond the horizon, and disappeared into myth. The colossal heads, according to these stories, were their sentinels, meant to eternally stand guard against oblivion. As the afternoon sun begins to fade, casting long shadows across the uneven ground, the colossal heads remain unmoved. Their expressions neither challenge nor invite, but simply endure. The jungle whispers around them, as though holding its breath. No inscription explains their origin. No scroll reveals their purpose. They are neither idols nor monuments in the conventional sense. They are something else. Perhaps they are the last trace of a people who encountered the impossible, or the echoes of rulers whose true identity will forever remain obscured. And as we stand before their vast, immobile presence, one subtle question lingers. Could the Olmec colossal heads be the silent witnesses to a forgotten encounter between the known world and the unknown? Their stoic gaze never blinks, their silence echoes, inviting us to. In the rolling hills of southern France, where vineyards stretch endlessly and the sun casts golden light over ancient stone villages, lies the quiet commune of Rennes-le-Château. To the casual traveller, it appears as a picturesque and unassuming village tucked away in the heart of the Occitanie region. Its narrow cobblestone streets and crumbling stone churches exude a timeless charm untouched by the modern world. But beneath its tranquil surface lies one of the most enigmatic mysteries in European history, an unsolved tale of wealth, whispers, and concealed truths that refuses to fade. It all began in the late 19th century, when a humble parish priest named Berenguer Saunière arrived at the small church of St. Mary Magdalene. A man of modest means and quiet ambition, Saunière was seemingly assigned to tend to the spiritual needs of this remote village without fanfare. Then, almost overnight, everything changed. Within a few years of his arrival, Saunière began living in unexplained luxury. He commissioned extravagant renovations to the church, installed ornate furnishings, built a private estate complete with gardens and fountains, and amassed a personal fortune far beyond what his clerical salary could explain. Rumours began to circulate. Villagers whispered of hidden treasures, secret parchments, and strange rituals. Some claimed Saunier had stumbled upon a hoard of gold. Others suggested he had uncovered knowledge too dangerous for the public eye, a secret that traced back centuries. The priest himself remained maddeningly silent, offering no explanation. He would occasionally mutter cryptic references to parchments, coded documents, and ancient secrets. His church, once austere and simple, became an eclectic mix of symbolism, arcane inscriptions, mysterious diagrams, and unsettling artwork hinting at occult knowledge. The mystery deepened further when researchers uncovered a series of parchments allegedly found by Saunier during renovations of the church. These ancient documents were written in code, adorned with strange symbols, and referenced obscure biblical passages and archaic numerology. Their meaning has never been fully deciphered. Some interpretations suggest they point to a secret religious order, hidden from the public and guarding a lineage far older than the Catholic Church itself. According to certain conspiracy theorists, Rennes-le-Château is not merely a site of local intrigue, but the epicenter of a centuries-old cover-up, hiding the bloodline of Jesus Christ, safeguarded by an underground network of guardians. The most sensational theory argues that Saunier had uncovered proof that Mary Magdalene was not merely a disciple, but the wife of Christ, and that their descendants carried a secret lineage, an alternative royal bloodline, poised to disrupt established history and religion. Saunier-Rey's sudden wealth, in this view, was payment for safeguarding the secret, or perhaps proceeds from the sale of hidden artifacts. Skeptics dismiss these claims as modern myth-making, born of sensationalism and romantic imagination. Academic historians point to a far more mundane explanation. Saunier was simply an opportunist who discovered a cache of undocumented donations or manipulated parish finances to enrich himself. But none of these explanations fully account for the parchments, the unusual inscriptions in the church, or the mysterious symbols etched into its altars and floors. Nor do they explain Saunier-Rey's peculiar behaviour. After his death in 1917, the mystery only deepened. His estate remained sealed for decades, generating fascination and speculation. The local community was divided, some revering Saunier as a saintly figure who had uncovered profound truths, others regarding him as a dangerous heretic who meddled with knowledge far beyond his station. In recent years, advanced imaging techniques and cryptographic analysis have attempted to unlock the secrets of the parchments, yet their meaning remains elusive. Patterns emerge in fractal-like complexity, letters aligning in seemingly intentional designs, hinting at a layered code one that may require keys long lost to time. The village of Rennes-le-Château today thrives on the legend. Visitors flock in modest numbers, eager to see the mysterious church, the priest's estate, and the cryptic symbols etched into the altar. Tour guides tell tales of hidden treasure buried beneath the churchyard, of secret tunnels running deep into the earth, of coded messages left by a man who vanished into history. But beneath the tourists' smiles and guided footsteps, a more unsettling truth lingers. What if the real secret was never gold or lineage, but knowledge? Knowledge forbidden, dangerous, and ancient. Perhaps Saunier-Rey's discovery was not material wealth, but a key, an encoded message left by an ancient order, whose purpose was never to enlighten, but to conceal. As the sun sets over the rolling vineyards, casting long shadows across the crumbling church walls, the confessional door remains closed. The shadows seem heavier here, as though absorbing the weight of untold stories. The parchments whisper in silence, their coded language unreadable. The symbols etched into stone speak only to those who dare interpret them. The priest's sudden wealth, his arcane renovations, his secretive life, all remain shrouded. And as the wind carries the faint scent of old ink and limestone through the deserted village, one subtle question hangs in the air. Was Rennes-le-Château merely the resting place of a greedy priest, or the gatekeeper of an ancient, forbidden lineage? A lineage whose knowledge was too powerful to survive the ages? The confessional door remains closed, the secret intact. In the blistering desert of the West Bank, where the sun casts an unforgiving glare upon ancient cliffs and the Dead Sea lies motionless, its surface shimmering like liquid glass, an extraordinary discovery emerged in 1947. Hidden for nearly 2 millennia, a collection of ancient scrolls was unearthed by chance in a series of caves near the settlement of Qumran, a discovery that would forever shake the foundations of religious history. These were the Dead Sea Scrolls. The story begins with a simple act of curiosity. A Bedouin shepherd, searching for a stray goat, stumbled upon a cave concealed by time and dust. Within, he found clay jars containing fragile parchment scrolls, their ink faded and edges crumbling. The air, dry and still, seemed to carry a whisper from the past, as though these texts had been waiting for centuries for someone to listen. Contained within the scrolls were over 900 manuscripts, fragments of ancient texts written in Hebrew, Aramaic, and Greek. Some were copies of biblical scriptures, aligning closely with the Old Testament as we know it. Others, however, were apocryphal, written in cryptic prose, contradicting canonical doctrine or revealing stories omitted from official religious accounts. At first, the discovery was hailed as a miraculous insight into the earliest days of Judaism and early Christianity, a direct link to ancient times, offering scholars an unprecedented glimpse into the formation of religious thought. But as researchers began to study the scrolls more carefully, a deeper tension emerged. Some texts described laws and practices at odds with those found in the Torah. Others contained apocalyptic prophecies, visions of a messianic figure far different from the one later canonized by mainstream religion. The community rule scroll, for example, outlined the strict regulations of a sectarian group that called themselves the Essenes, who lived in isolation, awaiting the end of days. More unsettling were the so-called Damascus document and the War Scroll, which portrayed a fierce, militant theology, one of cosmic struggle between the sons of light and the sons of darkness, a belief system not present in mainstream Jewish tradition. These revelations posed an unsettling question. Could these scrolls represent a radically different interpretation of early religious thought, one deliberately erased or suppressed by later Orthodox institutions? The twist deepens when we consider the possibility that the scrolls predate the final compilation of the Old Testament by centuries. Some scholars argue that these writings were part of a larger, far more fragmented religious ecosystem, divergent sects, each vying for theological dominance in a volatile period of history. The scrolls seem to hint at a world where doctrine was fluid, where the line between heresy and truth was blurred. An early Christian Messiah, a hidden priesthood, apocalyptic prophecies of world destruction, and sacred knowledge that never saw the light of accepted scripture, all encoded in ink and parchment preserved by time. One of the most haunting discoveries was a fragment known as the fourth quarter of 1705, the Testimonia, which appeared to reference a prophetic figure strikingly reminiscent of Jesus Christ, centuries before his supposed birth. This led to speculation that certain sects anticipated such a messianic figure long before the New Testament was written, challenging the official timeline of religious history. Moreover, carbon dating of some fragments placed their origins as far back as 250 BCE, long before the Roman occupation of Judea. These texts could represent the thoughts of early sects, perhaps the Essenes, or other lost groups whose teachings were too dangerous, too divergent, to survive the consolidation of Orthodox religion. The implications are profound. What if our understanding of religious history is far more fractured than we imagine? What if, rather than a linear, unified doctrine emerging over time, it was a turbulent battlefield of conflicting voices, each vying to shape the future of belief? As decades passed, the scrolls were meticulously preserved, stored in the carefully climate-controlled vaults of the Israel Antiquities Authority. Scholars continue their painstaking work, deciphering the fragile fragments, often finding more questions than answers. Yet the scrolls themselves remain silent. No one knows who exactly wrote them, why they were hidden, or by whom they were sealed within the caves. The desert keeps its secrets well. Some suggest the scrolls were hidden intentionally, to shield their radical knowledge from the eyes of Rome or rival sects. Others argue they were simply lost, awaiting rediscovery by accident. But the sense of intentionality lingers, as if the Essenes or whoever preserved these documents knew their words would speak to us across the millennia, long after they themselves had vanished. The caves of Qumran are now quiet, empty of the footsteps that first led to discovery. The scrolls lie in glass cases, their fragile surfaces illuminated by soft, artificial light, ancient words suspended in time, untouchable and unyielding. And as the sun sets over the Dead Sea, bleeding orange into the horizon, one cannot help but feel the weight of silence. What truths do the scrolls conceal? What dangerous knowledge were they meant to safeguard? Their faint, ancient ink seems to whisper, "We do not tell you what to believe. We only present what we were told to remember." And so they wait. In silence, unyielding. And the desert wind sweeps relentlessly across the Giza Plateau, where the sands of Egypt conceal stories older than time itself. The sun beats down, casting harsh shadows over the colossal limestone blocks of the Great Pyramid of Giza, also known as Khufu's Pyramid. Towering more than 140 meters into the sky, it remains the last of the seven wonders of the ancient world, a silent monolith built by hands that vanished into legend. For centuries, the Great Pyramid has stood unmoved, its purpose veiled in mystery, its interior explored but never fully understood. Traditional archaeology tells us it was constructed as a tomb, a grand resting place for Pharaoh Khufu, a testament to the glory of ancient Egypt. Yet beneath this well-worn explanation lies a far stranger truth. Whispers of secret chambers have echoed for generations. Ancient texts and local folklore speak of hidden rooms, lost corridors, and forbidden spaces, deliberately sealed to conceal something profound. But until recently, the limits of technology and caution prevented any meaningful discovery. Then, in the 21st century, a new technique emerged: muon tomography, a process that uses cosmic ray particles to peer inside solid structures without invasive drilling or excavation. Like a cosmic X-ray, muon imaging offers a way to detect density variations within massive stone blocks, revealing voids and hidden spaces undetectable by traditional means. The results were nothing short of extraordinary. In 2017, researchers working under the Scan Pyramids project announced the discovery of a vast, previously unknown void inside the Great Pyramid, an empty space more than 30 meters in length, situated above the Grand Gallery, precisely where no chamber had been expected. This revelation sent shockwaves through the academic world. How had such a large space remained undiscovered for so long in one of the most studied structures on Earth? And more importantly, why was it there? Conventional archaeologists remain cautious. Many suggest the void is merely a structural feature, perhaps a relieving chamber, designed to alleviate pressure from the weight of the stones above. But the sheer size of the space, combined with its precise alignment, suggests something more intentional. A deeper tension grows when we consider the architectural perfection of the Great Pyramid itself. The precision with which its blocks fit together, the mathematical sophistication of its dimensions, and the alignment to true north all defy the technological capabilities attributed to the ancient Egyptians. Could the void conceal evidence of advanced knowledge purposefully hidden or forgotten? Some fringe theorists go even further. They propose that the Great Pyramid was not merely a tomb, but a repository, a vault of ancient wisdom, a sacred archive of forgotten technologies, religious relics, or even extraterrestrial artifacts? What if the pyramid's internal design was not created solely for burial rites, but as a highly advanced mechanism, an energy generator, a cosmic observatory, or a coded message meant to endure? One particularly tantalizing hypothesis suggests that the Great Pyramid embodies knowledge of the stars. The precise positioning of its passages and chambers corresponds with celestial alignments, most notably the Orion constellation, revered in ancient Egyptian cosmology as the celestial counterpart of Osiris, god of the afterlife. Could the hidden void represent a secret chamber dedicated not to death but to transcendence? A sacred space where rituals were performed, encoded with the understanding of the heavens, deliberately concealed from the uninitiated. In 2020, further studies using advanced muon detectors confirmed the initial findings. Multiple voids existed, not just the primary large one. Their purpose remained indecipherable. These spaces were not accessible by the known internal corridors, nor were they part of the pyramid's structural design as understood by Egyptologists. Exploratory robots were deployed, small enough to crawl through narrow shafts, but they revealed only darkness, empty voids stretching beyond their limited reach. No inscriptions, no artifacts, no trace of human presence beyond the original construction. Theories abound. Some suggest the void contains documents, parchments, sealed in lead containers, as ancient as the pyramid itself, holding knowledge deemed too dangerous or profound for public knowledge. Others imagine relics of power devices, harnessing energy in ways we cannot yet comprehend, left to decay in silence. Yet another, more haunting suggestion proposes that the voids were constructed as metaphysical gateways, portals, intentional recesses designed to align with cosmic events, allowing priests or select individuals to achieve a transcendental state of consciousness, or perhaps even communicate with other realms. Whatever the truth may be, the pyramid itself offers no answer. The Great Pyramid stands as an eternal sentinel. Its limestone blocks, worn smooth by millennia of desert storms, conceal more than tombs and passages. They guard the silence of their builders, the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions. Each shadow within those hidden chambers seems to pulse with anticipation, as if time itself were suspended, waiting for someone daring enough to peer deeper. Could we be on the brink of understanding an ancient secret so profound that it was deliberately buried, or was it left untouched to protect us from knowledge we were never meant to hold? As twilight descends over Giza, the colossal structure seems to whisper in the breeze, its heart dark, its purpose unknown, and its silence absolute. The void remains. In the dense, humid jungles of southern Costa Rica, where tropical leaves drip with dew and the air hums with the chorus of unseen insects, thousands of stones lie scattered across the landscape. But these are no ordinary stones. They are perfect spheres, almost impossibly round, some as small as a grapefruit, others larger than a car embedded in the earth, like silent sentinels. The story of the stone spheres of Costa Rica, also known as Las Bolas, begins in the early 20th century, when banana plantation workers stumbled upon them while clearing land. Their discovery seemed almost surreal. Smooth, polished spheres of volcanic rock placed with apparent intention, appearing untouched by time itself. What struck explorers and researchers alike was their extraordinary precision. Carved from heavy granodiorite, a dense igneous rock rarely found in the immediate vicinity, the spheres showed an impeccable roundness that defied explanation. Unlike naturally occurring spherical stones, formed by geological processes over eons, these stones seemed sculpted by deliberate hands. Their surfaces were unnaturally smooth, some measuring over 2 meters in diameter and weighing several tons. To this day, scientists remain perplexed. No tool marks have been conclusively identified. No traces of modern machinery, metal instruments, or high-tech methods have been found in association with the spheres. Instead, they were shaped using techniques lost to time, methods now unimaginable by contemporary understanding of ancient technology. The first major archaeological studies began in the mid-20th century, as researchers attempted to catalogue and classify the spheres. At least 300 of them have been recovered from the jungle, although hundreds more are believed to remain hidden beneath layers of soil and vegetation, unreachable and unexamined. Even more intriguing is their arrangement. Several of the spheres appear to form alignments, straight lines, clusters, and even geometric patterns that suggest deliberate spatial organization. Some researchers noticed that certain groupings correlate with astronomical events. On specific dates of the year, the sun rises or sets in perfect alignment with the arrangement of spheres, as though they were markers of celestial cycles. Could they be ancient calendars, designed to track the passage of time and the movements of the stars? Or were they astronomical markers, guiding agricultural cycles, religious ceremonies, or sacred rituals? Some scholars propose that the spheres served as a complex timekeeping system, far beyond the capabilities of the cultures known to inhabit the region. The Diquis Delta civilization, which flourished in Costa Rica between 500 and 1500 CE, left no written records explaining the spheres. Their disappearance from history remains as mysterious as the stones themselves. But the mystery deepens when we consider the sheer number and scale of the stones. Transporting such heavy and numerous spheres, some weighing up to 16 tons, from distant quarries to the site, would have required enormous effort and advanced organizational structure. It is estimated that dozens of workers, using primitive tools and rope, spent years moving and positioning the stones, yet no clear path or tool marks have been preserved. Alternative theories suggest that the spheres represent a lost technological achievement, perhaps a knowledge of geometry and engineering far ahead of their time. Even more speculative are ideas that they are remnants of an ancient global network of geoglyphs and megalithic markers, akin to the Nazca lines of Peru, but designed in 3 dimensions rather than flat carvings. One particularly haunting hypothesis proposes that the spheres are not merely man-made artifacts, but relics of a civilization that reached technological heights, now lost societies whose purpose was not to worship, but to measure, to map, or to communicate. The spheres themselves give no answer. They remain still, unblinking. As sunlight filters through the thick canopy, casting dappled light across their polished surfaces, the spheres seem to pulse faintly in the quiet, as though holding ancient knowledge deep within their volcanic cores. No inscription marks their surface, no sign of the hands that carved them, only their perfect symmetry, their deliberate placement, and their inscrutable presence. Locals, too, contribute to the mystery with stories handed down across generations, tales of spirits inhabiting the spheres, guardians of ancient wisdom. Some believe they possess energy, a silent power left by an advanced civilization to endure the ages. Others whisper that the spheres are keys, pieces of a cosmic puzzle, deliberately placed to guide those who know how to read them. Yet, despite extensive study, despite the most sophisticated technology available, no definitive explanation has ever been confirmed. Could they be markers of forgotten star maps? Indicators of ancient trade routes? Or perhaps relics from a civilization whose knowledge was too dangerous, too profound to survive the march of time? As twilight descends over the Diquis Delta, the spheres remain unmoving, untouched by human hands or modern machinery. Their smooth surfaces catch the last rays of light, glimmering faintly like distant planets. And in their silence, one subtle question lingers. Are these stones merely monuments to a vanished people, or silent timekeepers of a knowledge we have yet to rediscover? They do not speak. They do not move. They simply remain, alive with implication. On a wind-swept plateau of Crete, where the Aegean Sea laps against ancient shores and the echoes of long-lost civilizations drift in the salty air, lies the ruins of Phaistos, a sprawling Minoan palace complex, once a center of power and mystery, now reduced to silent stones and empty courtyards. Amid the scattered remnants of this Bronze Age world, a singular artifact emerged that would defy understanding for over a century, a circular clay disc, embossed with an array of strange symbols arranged in a spiral from edge to center. This is the Phaistos disc. Discovered in 1908 by Italian archaeologist Luigi Pernier, the disc measures roughly 15 centimeters in diameter and bears 241 imprinted symbols, hieroglyph-like figures of humans, animals, tools, plants, and abstract shapes. What makes the disc remarkable and infinitely perplexing is not merely its age. It dates back to around 1700 BCE, but the fact that its symbols appear unique, with no clear parallels in other known ancient writing systems. The disc's surface is stamped in a manner far too uniform to be hand-carved. Instead, each symbol seems to have been pressed into the clay using pre-formed stamps, a prototype of movable type printing, thousands of years ahead of its time. This deliberate uniformity suggests a level of organization and sophistication unaccounted for in the archaeological record of the Minoan civilization. From the moment of its discovery, the Phaistos disc has been the subject of fevered speculation. Scholars from around the world have attempted to decode it, but no translation has ever been verified. Some hypothesize that it is a form of ancient writing, a lost language used by the Minoans, recording religious rites, astronomical observations, or bureaucratic inventories. Others suggest it is something far more cryptic, a coded message, a ritual calendar, or even an early attempt at preserving universal knowledge. The tension arises from the fact that no other artifacts with matching symbols have ever been found. Despite extensive excavations on Crete and surrounding regions, no second disc, no complementary tablet, no inscription has ever appeared. It stands alone in the vast archaeological record, a solitary cipher. In the decades since its unearthing, multiple theories have emerged. Some linguists argue that the symbols represent a form of syllabary, an alphabet where each symbol corresponds to a sound, akin to early Linear A or Linear B scripts used by the Minoans and Mycenaeans. However, attempts to match the symbols with known languages or linguistic patterns have yielded inconclusive, conflicting results. Others propose that the disc is not language at all, but a complex ideographic system, encoding entire concepts or rituals within each symbol. This would place it in the realm of sacred or ceremonial use, an object meant not to be read, but to be activated. Then there is the unsettling possibility that the Phaistos disc belongs to an entirely different cultural tradition, one whose origin lies outside the scope of known human history. Some fringe theorists point to parallels in the Indus Valley script, the Voynich manuscript, and other undeciphered systems, suggesting they all share a common, lost source of knowledge, a global network of esoteric communication that predates recorded history. Intriguingly, a handful of symbols on the disc bear a striking resemblance to pictograms found in distant civilizations, separated by oceans and centuries. The image of a plumed head, for example, appears in early Mesopotamian iconography. The symbol of a disc surrounded by waves resembles motifs found in ancient Sumerian tablets. Could this suggest a forgotten global culture, one that connected ancient peoples long before recorded trade routes, long before written history began? In recent years, researchers have employed cutting-edge technology, digital imaging, pattern recognition algorithms, and statistical analysis to attempt decipherment. Yet each effort seems to circle back into uncertainty, yielding no definitive interpretation. One particularly haunting theory suggests the disc encodes a ritual chant, recited during sacred ceremonies, long lost to memory. Perhaps it is not meant to be understood by intellect, but activated by repetition, a phonetic incantation, unlocking a deeper, hidden meaning known only to the ancient priesthood. The disc itself offers no clues. Its baked clay surface, hardened by millennia, bears the imprint of symbols that seem deliberately opaque. Its edges show signs of wear, yet no inscription identifies its creator, its purpose, or its language. It sits today in the Heraklion Archaeological Museum, displayed behind glass, bathed in soft lighting that highlights its intricate relief work. Visitors come and go, marveling at its craftsmanship, their footsteps echoing faintly in the cavernous hall, but none can pierce its silence. When one stands before the disc, the mind is flooded with questions. Who crafted this object? What knowledge did they hope to preserve? Was it a message to future generations, or a secret never meant to be unraveled? As the light fades and the museum's atmosphere grows still, the disc remains unmoving, a relic frozen in time. It does not speak. It does not shift. It simply waits, waiting for the right mind to unlock its meaning, or for the right moment in history to reveal itself. The Phaistos disc, an ancient enigma, alive not with answers, but with the weight of possibility. In the azure depths of the Aegean Sea, near the tiny Greek island of Antikythera, time lies submerged beneath layers of silt and salt. It was 1900 when sponge divers, plunging into the sea in search of marine treasures, stumbled upon a shipwreck dating back over 2 millennia. Among the scattered remnants of ancient amphorae and decayed wooden planks lay something unlike anything they had ever seen, a corroded bronze device covered in marine encrustations. For decades, it lay forgotten, a curious relic gathering dust in a museum, its significance misunderstood and overlooked. It wasn't until the mid-20th century, after painstaking conservation efforts, that the true marvel of the Antikythera mechanism began to reveal itself. At first glance, the device appeared to be nothing more than a jumble of gears and levers encased in a wooden frame barely larger than a shoebox. But as X-ray imaging and advanced microscopy techniques peeled away the layers of corrosion, a startling revelation came to light. This was not an ordinary artifact. It was a complex analog computer. Composed of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, the Antikythera mechanism could perform calculations of astonishing precision, far surpassing what any known ancient civilization was thought capable of achieving. Its primary function? To predict astronomical phenomena. When researchers began decoding the inscriptions etched into the mechanism's surface, tiny Greek letters arranged around the dials, it became clear that the device could calculate the movement of the sun, moon, and known planets, predict lunar and solar eclipses, and even track the complex cycles of the ancient Olympic Games. The tension deepened as scientists attempted to reconstruct its inner workings. Each gear was meticulously crafted, its teeth cut with remarkable precision, aligned to ratios that suggested not just craftsmanship, but advanced mathematical understanding. Some gears appeared to model the irregular orbit of the moon, an insight of staggering sophistication for an era presumed to lack such astronomical knowledge. How had ancient Greeks, living in an age often romanticized for its philosophy and art, created something so mechanically advanced, centuries before the Industrial Revolution? The twist came with the realization that nothing else remotely comparable exists in the historical record. No other device of similar complexity has ever been found from the same period or region. Linear B tablets, inscriptions, and architectural achievements of the time speak of an advanced culture, but none indicate such technological prowess. Leading historians and archaeologists have long tried to rationalize the mechanism as an isolated genius, a one-off experiment by an obscure inventor, perhaps inspired by the likes of Archimedes, whose own theoretical designs never reached fruition. Yet a few bold researchers suggest something far more unsettling. What if the Antikythera mechanism is evidence of an ancient knowledge system deliberately suppressed or forgotten? Could it be a surviving fragment of a technological tradition that existed long before the classical age, an advanced understanding of mechanics and astronomy deliberately erased by time and circumstance? Some fringe theorists posit that the mechanism was the product of contact with advanced, perhaps non-human, intelligences, an artifact left behind to encode knowledge beyond the capability of its apparent creators. It is said that the inscriptions refer to not only the known planets of the era Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, but also the cycles of rare events such as eclipses repeating in predictable patterns. How was this possible without centuries of astronomical observation and precise mathematical calculation? The mechanism's face features several dials, one displaying the calendar year, another mapping the zodiac constellations. Its back is more enigmatic still, a mysterious spiral of inscriptions referencing ancient cycles of unknown origin. When replicas of the mechanism were built in modern times, they functioned with near-perfect accuracy, revealing that the original's makers possessed an almost unimaginable understanding of gear ratios, orbital mechanics, and celestial cycles. Yet the original mechanism remained silent. It rests now in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens, displayed under glass, its bronze components gleaming faintly under carefully controlled light. Visitors gaze in wonder, their footsteps echoing softly in the cavernous museum, but none can touch its mystery. Every turn of the reconstructed gears seems to echo through history, a ticking clock counting not toward the present, but into the depths of the past. Could the Antikythera mechanism be the last surviving remnant of a forgotten age of enlightenment? A symbol of ancient knowledge so profound that it was intentionally obscured, relegated to myth and silence? Or was it merely an exceptional invention, one man's triumph over time, now destined to remain alone? The unanswered questions remain as intricate as the device itself. Who crafted it? What inspired its design? And why did no other artifact of its kind ever resurface? As the museum's lights dim and the hush of history surrounds it, the mechanism waits. No hum of power, no digital display, only the faint trace of ancient craftsmanship, frozen in bronze. An ancient computer, an analog wonder, a whisper of a time when knowledge was sacred and technology perhaps more advanced than we dare to admit. Its gears do not turn of their own accord. They await the mind that will finally unlock their secret. The Antikythera mechanism remains unmoved, unyielding. Alive high in the remote highlands of Bolivia, where thin mountain air carries whispers of ancient secrets, lies the archaeological complex of Pumapunku. Part of the greater Tiwanaku site, Pumapunku stretches across a broad plateau, its massive stone structures half buried in dust, their edges sharp and unforgiving, their scale both imposing and mystifying. What sets Pumapunku apart from other archaeological sites in the Andes is not merely its age, believed to be over 1,500 years old, but the extraordinary precision of its construction. Here, massive blocks of andesite and red sandstone, some weighing over 100 tons, lie carefully cut and interlocked in complex geometric patterns, their surfaces polished smooth, their angles cut with mechanical exactitude. The hook of this mystery lies in the sheer impossibility of the construction. Conventional archaeology argues that the builders used simple stone and bronze tools, relying on manual labour and ingenuity. Yet no records exist describing the techniques used to extract, transport, or shape these gigantic blocks. No remnants of cranes, pulleys, or advanced mechanical devices have ever been unearthed in the region. As the light of the high-altitude sun glances off the precisely right-angled corners and interlocking blocks, the doubt creeps in. How could ancient hands achieve such levels of accuracy, precision, that modern engineers struggle to replicate even today. The tension deepens when researchers apply microscopic analysis to the tool marks etched into the stone. Under extreme magnification, these cuts reveal patterns far too uniform to have been made by primitive tools. They exhibit signs of precise, repetitive motion, almost as if advanced machinery, perhaps something akin to a modern CNC, computer numerical control device, had guided the work. The cuts are straight to within microns, their edges clean and consistent, unlike the rough marks typical of manual chiseling. But where did such technology come from? Some mainstream archaeologists suggest that highly skilled labourers, perhaps using copper chisels combined with hammerstones and abrasive sand, could account for the work, albeit with enormous effort over decades. Yet even their most optimistic reconstructions fall short of explaining the remarkable uniformity of the blocks and their exact alignment. The twist comes with the discovery of certain features, complex, precisely shaped holes, perfectly symmetrical grooves, and interlocking joints that fit together with astonishing accuracy. One particular block, dubbed the H block, contains grooves designed to interlock with others in a way that shows advanced knowledge of mechanical principles, far beyond simple stacking. Alternative theories abound. Some suggest that Pumapunku was not the work of the known Tiwanaku civilization, but of a pre-human technological civilization, predating recorded history by millennia, a society whose technological prowess has been buried, deliberately erased by time. Others go further, proposing extraterrestrial intervention, arguing that such precise craftsmanship could not have been the work of human hands alone. The theory posits that these massive blocks were cut and assembled with knowledge gifted or left behind by advanced beings, an architectural legacy deliberately hidden. Another haunting possibility suggests Pumapunku was a sacred site, not merely for practical purposes, but as a geometric template designed to channel energy, perhaps aligning with cosmic forces, ley lines, or even unknown frequencies. Some researchers have pointed to the complex modular structure as evidence of an ancient understanding of mathematics, proportions, and resonance. Intriguingly, when measuring the blocks, researchers have noted a strange consistency. Many dimensions correspond to multiples of the number 9.81 centimeters, a value that coincides with Earth's gravitational constant. Is this a coincidence, or a deliberate encoding of universal knowledge? Today, Pumapunku stands abandoned. Its massive stones lie in disarray, some toppled, others embedded in the earth, their edges still as sharp as the day they were cut. Visitors to the site tread carefully among the ruins, sensing a strange energy in the air. The silence is profound, broken only by the occasional distant bird call, the faint whistle of wind passing through ancient crevices. The atmosphere is electric, as though the stones themselves remember the hands that shaped them, the forces that aligned them, and the purpose they once served. What ancient knowledge was lost here? What secrets remain etched in the andesite, lying dormant and silent? Perhaps the builders of Pumapunku were not merely skilled masons, but keepers of forgotten technology, tools and techniques, passed down from an age we do not remember, an era before recorded history. Or maybe Pumapunku was designed as a monument, an architectural message, a cosmic riddle frozen in time. Its blocks do not speak. They do not move. They do not explain. But their angles whisper. A faint suggestion that the story is incomplete. That beyond the visible, beyond the stones themselves, lies a deeper truth. A truth humanity has buried, perhaps unwilling to accept. As the sun sets behind the Andean peaks, casting long shadows over the ancient stones, one cannot help but feel the weight of time itself pressing down. Silent, unmoving, and yet alive with implication. The enigma of Pumapunku endures. Endless, In the dim, hushed corridors of the Yale University Beinecker Rare Book and Manuscript Library, beneath the protective glare of soft museum lighting, rests one of the most baffling relics in human history. A medieval manuscript so enigmatic, so impenetrable, that for over a century it has defied every attempt to unlock its meaning. This is the Voynich manuscript. Bound in worn, yellowed vellum, its 240 pages are filled with peculiar, undulating script, an unknown alphabet that curves and twists like the whisper of an alien tongue. Between these strange words lie intricate, often bizarre illustrations of unrecognizable plants, astrological charts, naked figures bathing in green pools, and mysterious apparatuses that appear neither scientific nor fantastical, but somewhere in between. The hook of the story is almost surreal. Who wrote this manuscript, and why? What knowledge does it conceal? Named after the rare book dealer Wilfrid Voynich, who purchased it in 1912, the manuscript has since become the holy grail of cryptography, a puzzle so perplexing that not a single expert has been able to decipher its meaning. Not codebreakers of World War I, nor modern-day artificial intelligence algorithms designed to tackle the most complex ciphers have succeeded. Decades of effort have yielded nothing conclusive. Scholars have tried to match its script to ancient languages, extinct dialects, or constructed alphabets, but every attempt collapses into speculation. Some claim it is an elaborate hoax, a medieval prank designed to fool the curious and the gullible. Others believe it is an encrypted compendium of forbidden knowledge, a grimoire, an alchemist's personal diary, or a manual for long-lost science. The tension deepens when modern radiocarbon dating places the manuscript's creation between 1404 and 1438, firmly situating it in a time of alchemical exploration, secret societies, and guarded religious knowledge. Yet no known author is linked to its production. No signature, no watermark, no historical record connects it to any individual. The most tantalizing twist arises from the marginalia handwritten annotations in Latin added centuries after the manuscript was first created. These notes, discovered upon close inspection, suggest that someone regarded the text as valuable, worthy of study. They do not mock it as nonsense, but instead reference botanical names, astronomical observations, and other alchemical terms. One such marginal note describes the manuscript as a personal diary of a European alchemist, hinting that the drawings are not random, but deliberate depictions of plants, potions, and esoteric processes. Could it be that the Voynich manuscript is not an arbitrary collection of gibberish, but rather an encrypted record of knowledge too dangerous to be revealed? The payoff emerges when considering the manuscript's illustrations. Some of the plant drawings depict species that do not exist in any known botanical record. Their roots twist in impossible angles, their leaves curve in unnatural ways, and their flowers bloom in bizarre, otherworldly patterns. Are these real plants, long extinct and forgotten? Or are they symbolic representations of processes, substances, or metaphysical concepts lost to time? Equally perplexing are the diagrams. Circular charts, some resembling star maps, others more abstract, seem to encode information about celestial movements, lunar phases, or perhaps even alchemical transmutations. One particular page shows a complex array of interconnected circles, lines, and arrows, suggesting an elaborate system of measurement or a recipe, but for what remains impossible to determine. In recent years, advanced AI programs have been employed to analyze the manuscript structure, searching for statistical patterns that might suggest a natural language. Some results indicate non-randomness, hinting at linguistic regularity. Yet every hypothesis is met with dead ends. No algorithm has cracked the code. No pattern yields a word. The manuscript sits in silence, its yellowed pages carefully turned only by gloved hands. Every curve of its script, every line of its drawings, seems deliberately placed to resist understanding. Could the Voynich manuscript be the last surviving fragment of a global network of secret knowledge? A forbidden recipe for medicines that cure the incurable, a method for transmuting base metals into gold, or even a guide to understanding the cosmos in a way modern science refuses to acknowledge? Some theorists suggest the manuscript was encoded to hide the identity of its author, perhaps a shadowy figure connected to early secret societies, a clandestine order that guarded knowledge too dangerous for public eyes. Others go even further, proposing it was designed as a message to future generations, an artifact meant to survive millennia, deliberately constructed to challenge the intellect, awaiting the right mind to decipher its meaning when the time was ripe. But perhaps the most haunting possibility is that the manuscript is a personal reflection of its creator, a deeply private compendium of ideas and images, known only to the alchemist who transcribed it, designed not to be read, but to remain eternally unread. As the last ray of sunlight filters through the library windows, falling softly upon the ancient pages, one is struck by the stillness of the moment. The manuscript script, indecipherable and alien, seems to pulse faintly, as if absorbing the weight of centuries of unanswered questions. What truths have we buried, unwilling to accept? Why does it refuse to yield its secrets? What knowledge lies hidden in the curves of its indecipherable letters? The Voynich manuscript's pages close softly, a whisper of parchment folding onto itself, its mystery never-ending, silent, unbreakable. It's high atop a gentle hill in southeastern Turkey, where the Anatolian plateau stretches endlessly beneath wide, cloud-streaked skies, lies a place that shakes the foundations of history itself. The site is called Göbekli Tepe, meaning Potbelly Hill, and it stands as the oldest known monumental structure created by humankind, dating back some 12,000 years. Long before the age of written language, before the rise of agriculture or the establishment of settled villages, the builders of Göbekli Tepe undertook an enormous, deliberate construction project. Here, in the pre-dawn era of human development, they erected massive stone pillars arranged in circular enclosures. Some of these megaliths tower over 5 meters high, weighing as much as 20 tons, adorned with intricate carvings of strange animals, lions, snakes, scorpions, and vultures, images that seem to speak of a lost mythology. The hook of this mystery lies in the inverted timeline it forces us to confront. For decades, conventional archaeology argued that organized religion emerged as a consequence of agriculture. That is, once humans began farming, they accumulated surplus food, formed villages, and only then developed religious structures. Göbekli Tepe turns this logic upside down. Here, at a time when humanity was presumed to consist of small bands of hunter-gatherers, roaming vast wildernesses, people assembled by the thousands to construct monumental stone circles. Why? What drove them to this immense effort? The tension deepens when researchers examine the symbols and reliefs etched into the limestone pillars. Some of the carvings depict animals in startling detail: a crouching fox, a pair of vultures flanking a mysterious humanoid figure, scorpions poised as if guarding a secret gate. No written language accompanies the images, but the symbolism is unmistakably deliberate. An encoded message, perhaps a ritualistic practice predating the advent of written word. Archaeologists have spent decades trying to understand the purpose of Göbekli Tepe. Was it a temple? A sacred meeting place for ancient hunter-gatherers to commune with unseen forces? Or was it an astronomical observatory, aligned with celestial bodies to mark the passage of seasons or significant cosmic events? The twist arises when researchers discover the lack of domestic artifacts. No hearths, no food storage pits, no typical signs of long-term settlement. This suggests that Göbekli Tepe was never meant to be a home, but rather a gathering place, possibly for periodic ceremonies. Some theorists propose an extraordinary idea, that religion came before agriculture itself. Perhaps it was the shared belief in a greater power, the ritualistic rites held here, that catalyzed the cooperation necessary to develop farming. In this interpretation, the divine need, the urge to honor gods or spirits, drove humans to settle, to cooperate, and only then to cultivate the land. Microscopic analysis of the limestone pillars reveals something equally baffling. The carvings were made with such precision that modern researchers, even with today's advanced tools, struggle to replicate them. Fine incisions suggest tools of unknown sophistication, or an advanced knowledge of stonework techniques lost in time. One particular pillar stands out, a T-shaped monolith, adorned with bas-reliefs of animals interwoven in mysterious patterns. Its shape seems to resemble the human form itself, suggesting anthropomorphic worship, but no clear cultural analogue exists. Speculation runs wild. Some suggest Göbekli Tepe represents the last echo of a pre-flood civilization, an advanced people whose knowledge was wiped away by catastrophe. Others hint at extraterrestrial influence, positing that these towering monoliths were constructed with knowledge of geometry and engineering beyond the grasp of prehistoric humans. Yet the most haunting interpretation remains the simplest. Göbekli Tepe is a testament to human belief, an ancient impulse to connect with the unknown, to carve meaning out of chaos. And perhaps, more than that, a desperate prayer against oblivion. As dusk descends over the plateau, casting long shadows between the monolithic circles, the atmosphere becomes otherworldly. The wind carries a faint echo, soft, almost imperceptible, as though the stones themselves remember the hands that raised them. The enclosures are empty now, their purpose lost. But one cannot shake the feeling that the carvings speak of something eternal. A prayer never uttered aloud, a message never decoded, a secret never fully revealed. What drove those ancient people to undertake such an immense and enigmatic project? Was it reverence, fear, knowledge, or something beyond comprehension? Göbekli Tepe's stones do not whisper answers. They do not shift or tremble. They remain heavy, silent, unyielding, holding, perhaps forever, the ancient, forgotten prayer of humanity's first. Beneath the relentless sun of Peru's arid southern desert, stretching over a forbidding plain of reddish-brown earth, lies one of humanity's most perplexing creations. Spanning hundreds of square kilometers, the Nazca lines are an immense network of geoglyphs drawn in the soil with such precision and scale that their true form emerges only when viewed from high above. The hook of this ancient mystery is immediately breathtaking. Some of the most famous designs depict giant animals, monkeys, hummingbirds, spiders, and whales, each measuring hundreds of meters across. Simple lines crisscross the landscape, forming long, straight paths, geometric figures, and complex spirals. These enormous designs were created by removing the top layer of reddish stones, revealing the lighter-colored soil beneath, a process that preserved the figures for centuries in the region's extreme dryness. But why? Why did the ancient Nazca people, who flourished between 500 BCE and 500 CE, invest so much effort in crafting geoglyphs that could not be fully appreciated from the ground, and whose meaning remains tantalizingly elusive? Mainstream archaeology suggests practical explanations. The lines may have functioned as astronomical calendars, marking the rising and setting points of celestial bodies. Others propose they served as ritual pathways, walked by priests or shamans during religious ceremonies, a physical manifestation of sacred journeys. Yet these explanations, while intriguing, do not account for the full complexity. The tension deepens with each discovery. In recent years, satellite imagery and aerial surveys have uncovered previously unknown glyphs, some so intricate that their very existence raises more questions than answers. One set of newly discovered lines appears to align perfectly with the rising of specific stars, particularly constellations not fully understood or observed by the ancient Nazca themselves. Some glyphs exhibit astonishing geometric precision angles, curves, and proportions so exact they defy manual measurement, especially considering the tools known to exist in that era. Moreover, several lines extend for kilometers in near-perfect straightness, despite the rough terrain of the Nazca Desert. To achieve such precision without aerial perspectives, as would only have been available millennia later, seems impossible. Then comes the twist. Alternative researchers suggest that the lines are not meant for human eyes at all. Instead, they propose a provocative theory. The Nazca lines were messages designed for the gods, or perhaps for ancient visitors from the stars. They argue that the geoglyphs served as beacons or landing markers for unidentified flying beings, a prehistoric attempt at communication, a message written in the language of geometry and scale. Some of the animal figures, such as the enigmatic hummingbird or the condor, appear stylized in ways that suggest symbolic significance far beyond mere artistic expression. Could they represent star constellations, sacred animals, or even alien symbols? Adding to the intrigue, researchers have found traces of ancient effigies and platforms nearby, suggesting that the Nazca people conducted ceremonies in connection to these lines. Yet, there is no record, oral or written, explaining their purpose. Another strange detail is the lack of habitation directly adjacent to many of the lines. The people who created them did not live in permanent settlements near the geoglyphs. Rather, these creations seem entirely ceremonial, purposeless from a practical standpoint, yet monumental in effort. The payoff emerges when we contemplate their scale. Viewed from the ground, the lines are almost meaningless, appearing as faint scratches in the desert floor. But from above, their grand design emerges, as though someone intended them to be seen from the sky, waiting for eyes that could only arrive much later in human history. Could these lines be a ritualistic attempt to communicate with beings far beyond our comprehension? A desperate plea, etched in earth and time, to call the attention of unseen watchers? Perhaps they were constructed as part of an elaborate religious belief system, connecting the Nazca people with the cosmos, binding earth and sky in a silent pact. Or maybe, just maybe, they are the last remnant of a global system of geoglyphs, an ancient network of terrestrial markers designed for a purpose lost to history. As the desert wind whispers across the barren expanse, shifting the fine dust ever so slightly, the lines remain unmoved. Their scale, geometry, and precision continue to defy understanding. The Nazca lines do not explain themselves. They do not hum or glow. They simply lie there. A message without a recipient. A prayer without a voice. Silent, vast, and waiting. Beneath the immense sky, the desert remains infinite and eternal, an untouched canvas of ancient. In the blistering deserts of modern-day Iraq, where the land remembers empires that rose and fell in silence, a small clay jar lies hidden among the sands of history. Its discovery was unassuming, almost accidental, a simple, unremarkable artifact unearthed in the early 1932 near the ancient city of Baghdad. But this was no ordinary piece of pottery. Inside the jar sat a copper cylinder, neatly encased within an iron rod, all sealed with bitumen, a natural, tar-like substance. At first glance, it seemed like little more than a relic of antiquity, a commonplace container, yet something about its construction set it apart. The hook of the mystery begins here. Could this ancient object, dubbed the Baghdad Battery, actually have been an early form of electrochemical cell? When researchers first examined the artifact, they speculated wildly. Some proposed that the jars served as simple storage vessels. Others suggested they were ritualistic objects. Yet the arrangement, The precise separation of metals, the insulating layer of bitumen, hinted at something far more deliberate. The tension builds as scientists debated fiercely. Mainstream archaeologists dismissed the idea outright, arguing that the design was coincidental. Copper and iron components were common in the region, and the apparent alignment of materials could easily have been accidental, a byproduct of unrelated technology or storage techniques. Critics scoffed at the notion that the ancient Mesopotamians, flourishing over 2,000 years ago, could have possessed knowledge of electricity, a concept thought to have been discovered only in the 18th century. Yet, alternative researchers persisted. Experimental recreations of the Baghdad battery, when filled with an acidic solution, vinegar or lemon juice, produced a measurable voltage. Low, barely more than 1 volt, but significant nonetheless. The twist emerged when meticulous analysis of the electrodes revealed traces of corrosion and wear consistent with extended use, rather than random degradation over centuries. The copper cylinders and iron rods bore microscopic marks, indicating repetitive insertion and removal, suggesting intentional design rather than happenstance. More astonishingly, similar batteries were found in nearby regions, suggesting the knowledge was not isolated to a single object, but part of a broader technological practice. What could such primitive batteries have been used for? Some suggest simple electroplating coating objects in thin layers of precious metals for decorative or functional purposes. Experiments show that recreations of the Baghdad battery are indeed capable of producing small currents sufficient for electroplating tiny objects. Others go further, proposing that the batteries were employed in rudimentary medical treatments, early attempts at electrotherapy, perhaps believed to cure ailments by stimulating the body with electric charge. The most provocative hypothesis suggests they were components of a much larger, now forgotten electrical network, built by ancient civilizations long before modern electricity was ever conceptualized. Could it be that ancient Mesopotamians harnessed electricity not as accidental pioneers, but as deliberate engineers of a forgotten power system? The payoff emerges when considering the implications of this possibility. If the Baghdad battery is evidence of ancient electricity, it suggests that scientific knowledge did not develop in a linear fashion. Perhaps it was discovered, then lost, and rediscovered millennia later. It raises unsettling questions. What other technologies did ancient civilizations possess, only to be buried by time? Were there electric devices, long since decomposed, that once powered temples, illuminated sacred spaces, or energized mysterious artifacts? The Baghdad battery does not hum. It does not pulse. It sits inert, a quiet sentinel of forgotten power. As the sun sets over the Mesopotamian plains, casting long shadows across the desert, one cannot help but imagine the hands that once held this small jar, carefully assembling its copper and iron innards, pouring acidic liquids into its core, and connecting it to unknown apparatuses. Who were they? What drove them to create this small but profound device? Perhaps they believed they were channeling the power of the gods. Or perhaps they stumbled upon a force beyond understanding, a spark of nature's hidden potential. The clay jar remains sealed, its contents preserved by time. Its electrodes, corroded yet unmistakably deliberate, bear silent witness to an ancient experiment. The power, unseen, yet perhaps never lost. An echo of electricity, a whisper of what once was, or what could high above the city of Cusco, where the Andes roll like ancient sentinels and clouds drift lazily over jagged peaks, lies a structure that seems to defy human comprehension. This is Sacsayhuaman, the fortress of the Inca, a sprawling complex of walls built with enormous stones, some weighing over 100 tons, interlocked with an almost supernatural precision. The hook begins in the moment you first approach the site. Massive stones rise in stepped terraces, their edges perfectly cut, their surfaces smoothed until they appear to have been sculpted by the gods themselves. Walk among them, and you feel a vertiginous awe. The sheer size of the stones, the impossibility of their arrangement, and the meticulous way each massive block fits together as if molded specifically for the one beneath it. No mortar binds the walls. Yet they have endured centuries of earthquakes, landslides, and the relentless winds of the Andes, standing as immovable as the mountains themselves. The tension is immediate. Archaeologists and engineers alike struggle to explain how the Incas, without iron tools, pulleys, or wheeled vehicles, could have quarried, transported, and positioned stones of such colossal weight with centimetre-perfect accuracy. Even modern construction would find this feat difficult. Some propose the use of ramps, levers, and brute manpower, a testament to human ingenuity and patience. Yet calculations suggest that the effort and coordination required would have been monumental, almost beyond the capacity of even a sophisticated pre-Columbian society. Then the twist emerges. Some researchers argue that the precision goes beyond human capability of the time. The stones interlock like three-dimensional puzzles, each irregularly shaped yet fitted together with such care that not even a knife blade can be inserted between many of the blocks. Corners are beveled, surfaces polished, angles exact to fractions of a millimetre. Alternative theories abound. Some suggest unknown ancient technologies, perhaps now lost machines, advanced tools, or techniques passed down from a civilization predating the Inca. Others dare whisper alien intervention, proposing that visitors from beyond the stars could have guided the construction, their knowledge far surpassing the technological capacity of 15th century humans. But beyond speculation, the fortress itself speaks in silence. The walls curve in sweeping arcs, echoing the contours of the surrounding mountains, as if the builders sought not merely to dominate the landscape, but to harmonize with it. A profound understanding of geometry, earth, and stone is etched into every terrace, suggesting that Sacsayhuaman was not merely defensive but symbolic, a deliberate statement of power, knowledge, and spiritual intent. The payoff is both awe-inspiring and unsettling. Sacsayhuaman stands not merely as a fortress, but as a testament to forgotten ingenuity and resilience. It challenges our understanding of history, forcing us to ask how much of the past has been deliberately erased, misunderstood, or left unrecorded. Walk along its terraces, and the air hums with the memory of those who toiled to raise these stones. The walls themselves seem to hold the pulse of human ambition and ingenuity, yet their perfection hints at guidance that may have been beyond human reach. As clouds swirl around the peaks, casting fleeting shadows across the walls, one cannot help but feel the weight of time pressing down. Every stone, every joint, every curve of Sacsayhuaman whispers a story of power, knowledge, and secrets lost to history. And yet, the fortress remains unbroken. Its walls, silent and monumental, stand as guardians of a past we can glimpse but never fully understand. A question lingers in the high-altitude wind. How many truths of human civilization have been deliberately hidden, masked by time, or left to whisper in stone? Sacsayhuaman does not answer. It does not tremble. It simply stands an eternal monument to what was achieved, and perhaps what we have. As the sun sets over ancient landscapes, deserts, mountains, and ruins, one thought presses upon the mind like the weight of centuries. After millennia of inquiry, investigation, and excavation, the most bizarre, the most inexplicable, ancient mysteries remain unresolved. From the enigmatic Dropa stones in hidden caves to the perfect interlocking walls of Sacsayhuaman, humanity has unearthed fragments of history that defy understanding, yet full comprehension always seems to elude us. The hook of this final chapter is deceptively simple. Why? Why do these anomalies persist, taunting generations of historians, archaeologists, scientists, and curious minds alike? Why does the human narrative, so thoroughly catalogued in books, inscriptions, and archives, appear peppered with deliberate gaps, holes where knowledge should reside, where certainty dissolves into wonder? The tension builds when one contemplates the possibilities. Are we blind to our own history? Perhaps the records we rely on are incomplete, filtered through the biases of time and survival. Or is it more unsettling that certain truths are deliberately obscured, hidden by forces, institutions, or events that sought to shape the human story according to selective narratives? Consider the Voynich manuscript, whose pages have refused translation for centuries, the Baghdad Battery, hinting at technologies lost before modern science could emerge, or the Nazca lines, stretching across deserts with designs comprehensible only from above. Each of these relics challenges the assumption that human progress is linear, that knowledge accumulates predictably. Instead, they whisper of intelligence, ingenuity, and awareness that may have existed far earlier than we imagine, or perhaps knowledge that has been intentionally erased from our collective memory. The twist of this chapter is subtle, yet profound. Even today, as science advances and technology allows us to peer deeper into the past, from satellite imagery revealing previously unseen Nazca glyphs to muon imaging, exploring hidden chambers in the Great Pyramid, every new discovery seems to confirm one thing: we are only scratching the surface. For every answer uncovered, multiple new questions arise, sometimes more perplexing than the original mystery. Could it be that the greatest mysteries of our world are not meant to be fully understood in a conventional sense? Perhaps their purpose is not merely to convey factual knowledge, but to awaken curiosity, to provoke reflection, to remind us of the vastness of what we do not know. These secrets endure because the human mind itself is not fully prepared for the truth, or perhaps because some truths are deliberately veiled, their revelation reserved for a future we cannot yet imagine. The payoff is subtle, almost philosophical. Through centuries of inquiry, the pursuit of understanding has transformed from the search for facts into the search for perspective. The greatest mystery may not be the objects themselves, the monolithic stones, the untranslatable manuscripts, the alien-like geoglyphs, but the enduring absence of resolution, the whisper of knowledge that remains just beyond our reach. It is a meditation on the nature of history and human curiosity, that some truths, when encountered, may challenge our assumptions so profoundly that comprehension itself becomes impossible. Perhaps we are living in a world shaped not only by what we have discovered, but by what has been hidden from us or what we have not yet learned to perceive. The resolution comes not in answers, but in reflection. As the screen of consciousness fades to darkness, as the mind drifts across the deserts of Peru, the hills of Turkey, the deserts of Iraq, the silent caves of China, and the towering Andes of South America, a quiet question lingers, echoing in the spaces between stone, ink, and soil. What if the truth is too strange for us to comprehend? What if the ancient world, in all its wonder and intelligence, left us puzzles not to solve, but to marvel at? What if the universe itself delights in its mysteries, and the act of wonder of questioning is the most profound inheritance of all? In that darkness, one final thought takes hold. The past is not dead. It is alive in the whispers of stone, in the curvature of lines across deserts, in inked pages no eye can fully read. It speaks to us not with certainty, but with possibility, inviting us to listen, to imagine, to dream. The ancient mysteries endure. They are not bound by time. They are eternal, and their secrets remain ours.